Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is a screencast-matic presentation and recording for the part of the lesson that has looking at the textbook reading for China resisting outside influence. Before we get started, please let me encourage you to open up to today's lesson and to scroll down the correct section, and remember that your goal here is to answer the key concept questions as they coincide for the reading. Please also remember that if you need, you can replay any part of this presentation for detail or clarity or repetition later on. Let's go ahead and get started. First, let's set the stage. Out of pride in their ancient culture, the Chinese looked down on all foreigners. In 1793, however, the Qing emperor agreed to receive an ambassador from England. The Englishmen brought gifts of the West's most advanced technology, clocks, globes, musical instruments, and even a hot air balloon. The emperor was not impressed. In a letter to England's King George III, he stated that the Chinese already had everything they needed. They were not interested in the, quote, strange objects and gadgets that the West was offering them. Section 1. China and the West. China was able to reject those offers from the West because it was largely self-sufficient. The basis of self-sufficiency was China's healthy agricultural economy. During the 11th century, China had acquired a quick-growing strain of rice from Southeast Asia. By the time of the Qing dynasty, the rice was being grown throughout the southern part of the country. Around the same time, the 17th and 18th centuries, Spanish and Portuguese traders brought maize, sweet potatoes, and peanuts from the Americas. These crops helped China increase the productivity of its land and more effectively feed its huge populations. China also had extensive mining and manufacturing industries. Rich salt, tin, silver, and iron mines produced great quantities of ore. The mines provided work for tens of thousands of people too. The Chinese also produced beautiful silks, high-quality cottons, and fine porcelain. The tea and opium connection. Because of their self-sufficiency, the Chinese had little interest in trading with the West. For decades, the only place that they would allow foreigners to do business was the southern port of Guangzhou, and the balance of trade at Guangzhou was clearly in China's favor. This means that China earned much more for its exports than it spent on imports. European merchants were determined to find the product the Chinese would buy in large quantities. Eventually, they found one: opium. Opium is a habit-forming narcotic made from a poppy plant. The Chinese doctors had been using it to relieve pain for hundreds of years. In the late 18th century, however, British merchants smuggled opium into China for non-medical use. It took a few decades for opium smoking to catch on, but by 1835, as many as 12 million Chinese people were addicted to the drug. War breaks out. This growing supply of opium caused great problems for China. The Qing emperor was angry about the situation. In 1839, one of its highest advisors wrote a letter to England's Queen Victoria about the problem. By what right do they, British merchants, use the poisonous drug to injure the Chinese people? I have heard that the smoking of opium is very strictly forbidden by your country. That is because the harm caused by the opium is clearly understood. Since it is not permitted to do harm to your own country, then even less should you let it be passed on to the harm of other countries. The pleas went unanswered, and Britain refused to stop trading opium. The result was an open clash between the British and Chinese. The Opium War of 1839. The battles took place mostly at sea. China's outdated ships were no match for Britain's steam-powered gunboats. And as a result, the Chinese suffered a humiliating defeat. In 1842, they signed a peace treaty, the Treaty of Nanjing. Now, this treaty gave Britain the island of Hong Kong, and after signing another treaty in 1844, the U.S. and other foreign citizens also gained extraterritorial rights. Under these rights, foreigners were not subject to Chinese law at Jiangzhou and 4 other Chinese ports. Many Chinese greatly resented the foreigners and the bustling trade in opium that they conducted. Please proceed to the next section on growing internal problems.